Yeah, this for
This
the wasps. And
for the wasps and for being afraid.
how is he connected to the wasps?
The wild man. He brings,
He brings them with him.
they attract.
Is he
Encircled, yes.
surrounded by...
So going into the cave, I went with two other writers, Ritis and Violette, and none of us really knew how we would work together at all, and there wasn't suddenly like one leader. It was almost because there was enough room for us all, we each kind of took our own role in kind of seeing what would happen if I took this over here, and then I would look over here and Violetta had done something that sort of connected the two. So it enabled each of us to have autonomy in the kind of co-creating of the story. It felt quite childlike because you were suddenly sort of given a little space to play in, but it still had kind of almost like, I don't know, like a sandbox if you're a kid, and these little like things you could use to invent stories with, coming with a seed of an idea for a story. So a flutist starts to play in this concert hall and everyone's completely immersed in the sound she's creating. Although you think they are, but actually everyone's kind of just watching each other. So there's someone quite wealthy looking over there kind of flirtatiously at this bloke. Our project kind of had these wasps and we hung these like wasps around, so it felt like almost like you could embody what it would be like in this concert audience with wasps around, because you were having to sort of move, and then it helped us then think about character in the audience and how would they behave. It kind of felt like we'd come in with chaos of many directions, but in this container we were able to start kind of making sense of it. And they kind of look up and there's this wild man who's entered and no one kind of knows how he's got into this space, and he's walking into the center of the crowd and he just sits, and with him are all of these wasps that start to kind of circle around him. We were able to communicate beyond words as well, rather than trying to explain. It's almost as though the story is there, we have to discover it. It's not as though it was coming from us, which was really interesting experience. It was like, because we had externalized these through these images and this space, it's like our role was to kind of, I suppose in a way like a cave, is to go and explore and discover and retrieve, which we did, and it kind of opened up a possibility that we wouldn't have had if we'd worked either like just on a table or just on a wall. Then in the black room, because there was no visuals and just pure sound, it made me feel so much. And it was both terrifying and kind of incredible, because suddenly it was like these sounds, you would make associations with the characters, because we all went in with this idea of the seeds and what we had in the cave, into this black room where suddenly these sounds were like creating new feelings related to the characters. So it was suddenly this black room enabled more imagination. The first thing I felt and saw was the creaking of a rope and a woman hanging, and the busy city going on, no one seeing her hanging. It was a sound we'd created together that was articulating the story through the noises we'd made through this kind of looping, which was really fun, as well as kind of bizarre. Like, we were singing and being wasps, and it was just really interesting how the sound created a kind of, yeah, like a a feeling texture. Then there was this dark, intense something else. It wasn't a boat, it was something from the ground coming from underneath the kind of riverbank. And then I saw the wild man, kind of character-like person coming from the mud. I think going into the black room, which was kind of like another cave, but smaller, and then sitting in a circle, it felt physically quite primitive, as though we were sat around a fire that wasn't there, and kind of being able to, we were sat on these very like squishy puffs, and it just felt, you could sink, and it felt safe, and maybe because we were with one another as well, and then you kind of lost the sense of where you end and begin, because you can't see anything. And from the beginning, I've been drawn to the smell of vinegar and its relationship with the wild man and the wasp and the organic. And I feel like this object makes me think of how you make vinegar, and like the kind of walking into mud, into a muddy field of apples. The plateau I found quite intimidating, because you were in this very suddenly huge space, going from this cave to this dark to this kind of open space that we had these 3 ropes, and all 3 of us sat separately. And it felt like, after having been really intimately together, it was like suddenly we were apart. It felt like, oh, automatically, I felt like my objects spoke to theirs. And even though I had to kind of talk about, I had a welly, so describing a welly, and the image I brought from the cave was vinegar, or the smell of vinegar, because this wild man brings this smell with him. And yet I kind of felt already making connection, because I'd already been doing that within the cave.
Yeah, I have another.
Yeah, oh, that one is better. Yeah.
But she's connected, so
Absolutely.
it's, yeah.
Sorry.
You want me to hold it or no?
Somebody else will. Actually, the wild man will hold it in a way.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
Because he gave her the ropes, so the hanging woman became a character that we embodied in this plateau, because of a sound I'd heard and it all kind of connected from the previous spaces, and the rope of this woman hanging, we then made connect with a memory and this wild man, and suddenly it was like, you felt like what was the most essential part of our story was because of this rope connecting these 2 characters.
Stay here, or?
Yeah, stay there.
Yeah, you
But
stay
I will make
there.
it.
We'll
I will
see.
make it pretty
You make
loose.
How kind.
Okay.
That's a guilt.
Yeah, the rope of guilt.
Yeah, yeah.
Jean-Louis was our wild man. He was looking to Aurélie, the hanged woman, and smiling. And suddenly it just, why are you smiling? What is that? And it kind of then, created even more curiosity, but also potential and solidity again. And this wild man became, because he wore one of our wellies that we'd interrogated, and he just became a real person, rather than this kind of surreal, abstract archetype. Well, I feel like now there's characters, there's like the wild man, but then there's the character of this young man in the orchestra. And I really like how they have their back to each other, this woman from the past that's connected to the present man in this space. But there's something about the tools from doing these 3 experiments is a space. like what space does for story, and I know that I would like to not necessarily create a cave, but kind of imagine my stories in three-dimensional ways outside of computer, using kind of physicality and moving my body through it, so that I can either experience as a character through a story, like by building it, or ways that I may not have noticed by being able to actually kind of look around a space. I feel like this experience is really rare, and it shouldn't be. I've co-written things before and it's never felt that easy. Maybe because it was super, super early on, but yeah, it felt like we were all curious and open and perhaps vulnerable as well, because none of us really knew. And I think if that would have changed very quickly if someone had decided they knew and they were in charge. I think the two of whoever decided that, it would have been quite a different experience for them.